Meanwhile, there's still no word on the release of Chris Hani's killer, Janus Walus. It follows a recent pronouncement by the Constitutional Court last week that he must be released within 10 days. Walus was convicted and imprisoned for the assassination of then SACP leader Chris Hani in 1993. He's currently receiving medical treatment in a prison's health facility after he was stabbed by a fellow inmate a few days ago. Well, Chriselda Lewis, as reporter, is at the Kgosi Mampuru Correctional facility in Pretoria, and she joins me now. Chriselda, what is happening, if anything?
Well, Francis, absolutely nothing. In fact, we've been waiting for a couple of hours now to get word from the Department of Correctional Services on whether Chris Hani's killer, Janus Walus, has been released from this prison. Of course, as you indicated 2 days ago, the Department of Correctional Services confirming that he had been stabbed by a fellow inmate and had been in a stable condition and was receiving treatment. No word since then. Of course, you'd recall this was following the Constitutional Court ruling finding against the Justice Minister, saying that there was no basis for not granting Janus Walus parole, and that he was to be released in 10 days. That 10 days is today, and there's been absolutely no word at this particular stage. I think we've been monitoring over the past few days the tensions that have been boiling since that decision by the Constitutional Court. And you would recall, of course, that today the economic freedom fighters that marched to the offices of the Chief Justice and basically shutting down the N1. It was quite difficult for me to get here to Pretoria. We had to take other routes. That was part of the discontent that was shown and the unhappiness about the ruling by the Constitutional Court. You would also recall that yesterday the Tripartite Alliance here in Pretoria also marching against the very same decision. So I think everyone is waiting with bated breath at this particular time to try and understand or to try and hear from the Department of Correctional Services whether Janus Walus would be released on parole as directed by the Constitutional Court, also in the wake of a number of these protests that we have seen. But one of the key things, Francis, that the department would need to take into account is, of course, this incident that took place 2 days ago, the stabbing of Janus Walus behind these walls here at the Kgosi Mampuru prison. One of the things that would need to take into account before that release is perhaps to get the go-ahead from doctors about whether he can be released. And given the fact that we're told that he is in a stable condition,
all right, we've just lost her, but SABC News' senior reporter, Chriselda Lewis, I think gave us a very good outline of the looming deadline. So that would be today, presumably midnight, but no activity. Chriselda, let's wrap up very quickly. So we're waiting, and it could be any time tonight. Otherwise, the department is in danger of not meeting that deadline.
Well, that's right, Francis. As per that directive of the Constitutional Court, that 10 days is today. So the expectation was that any time from this morning into this afternoon, into this evening, perhaps we will get word from the Department of Correctional Services. I'm just going to peep at my phone again for the next few moments to see if just moments ago anything might have come through. It doesn't seem to be the case at this particular time. Still no word from the Department of Correctional Services and whether Janus Walus will be released from this prison. We know, of course, that he had been receiving that care following the stabbing that had taken place. But I was highlighting a very critical point, Francis, when I said that one of the key issues that the department would have wanted to take into consideration before he's released is his condition. Remember, that statement that was released was quite clear to say that he was in a stable condition. But what the department wouldn't want to take chances on is releasing someone without getting a directive from healthcare practitioners in this instance, those who would be taking care of Janus Walus after he had been stabbed by this fellow inmate. So a number of issues need to be taken into consideration, but at this particular time, certainly no indication whatsoever. And whatever does happen, Francis, will certainly be a telltale of what happens over the next couple of days, and I make reference to that on the basis of the protests that we've seen in the lead up to today.
All right, senior reporter Chriselda Lewis, thank you very much.